Acharya-ji, I would like to raise the notion of compromise, and specifically in its primary dictionary definition, according to which it's disagreement being solved by both parties making concessions. So in a way, reaching a middle way.
Come again, compromise in the context of?
I will go on. Then, so the definition is this. I'm mentioning this primary definition because I know that there are other definitions, but I'm only concerned with this one when both parties are trying to find a middle way. Then again, and we feel we are entitled to ask them to turn down the music. Or I want to sleep and I feel entitled to ask others not to talk because I'm about to sleep. Or I don't want to talk to someone and I feel that and I'm expecting that they respect this request. So it seems that like quietness, silence trumps noise. And I'm wondering, part A of the question, whether this we can take as proof that our innate nature is silence, indeed. And secondly, part B, I'm wondering how compromises in this primary definition comes into play in the spiritual process, if it has any legitimacy at all.
See, silence is indeed our inner nature, but not necessarily the silence of the oral kind. Inner nature is mental silence, not necessarily silence in which there is an absence of words or sounds. Depending on the situation, even if you are surrendered to the inner silence, externally you may require either physical silence or some material sound. So either way it is possible, right? And both these possibilities are when you are indeed surrendered to the inner silence, in love with the inner silence. In that case, two possibilities. The other case is you really do not have much affinity even for inner silence. And this situation applies to the great majority of people, right? Now, even these kind of people may seek either physical silence or physical sound outside. So, if you find someone very keen on living at a noiseless place, that in no way conclusively demonstrates that the person is indeed devoted to inner silence. It is quite possible that a person very fond of living noiselessly in a physical way, in an oral way, is actually very noisy within. In fact, it could go to the extent that one demands external silence only so that internally one can keep chattering with himself. Even that is possible. And on the other extreme, it is possible that someone who is very silent within might be in the business of sound and words and even noise, day in, day out. Getting it? So it has to be remembered that our one kind of activity, external silence too is a kind of activity. So in talking of silence, in respecting silence, let us not confuse the real internal silence with wordlessness or soundlessness in the external sense. They don't have much to do with each other. That's a social arrangement. And once you have entered that arrangement, you'll have to abide by it. Suppose you live at a place that has been socially or officially declared to be a silent zone past 10 p.m. Then you indeed are entitled to demand that someone just shut down his music, or stop talking noisily. Then you indeed are entitled. But then that is so very social. You cannot go to that person at p.m. and say that I am in love with spiritual silence. So can you please turn down your music? Cannot say that. So when it comes to dealing with others, remember that we live in a society or in changeable societies, and living in any society is an act of choice. One is always free to switch societies. One is always free to move to some other circle. And that freedom must be exercised. But as long as one is there in one particular space, it is incumbent upon one to play by the rules of that space. If the rules of that space were so very unpalatable, then one should not have entered that space in the first place, or having entered it, one would have corrected herself and sought a nearby or different space. So that's not a question carrying much spiritual significance. But the first part is indeed quite important for all of us here. External silence is a very ineffective and a very unreal substitute for the real thing. In fact, it is likely that if you are busy gossiping within, we all are masters at internal monologues, then you require a very silent room, don't you? Think of it. If all you want is your own company, which is probably the worst company anyone can have, then you would not want any external sound around you. You would say, no, let nobody be there. Let even the TV and the radio be switched off. I want to be with myself. And what will you do with yourself? Chat endlessly. And is that chatter any good? No. To an outsider, it might even appear that you are sitting silently. And that's how the other person, on seeing you, would remark. He would say, oh, look at you. How silent are you? But are you really silent? Only you know the situation. This thing within is buzzing. There's an entire marketplace inside. So much noise. And extend the situation now. Let the external silence be breached by the words of someone who really understands. Let's say you were sitting in your so-called silence in a vacant room, and internally you were quite noisy. Now there is someone who enters the room, and this fellow does know a thing or two about life, and he starts speaking to you. Externally, it would appear as if the silence of the room has been violated, right? There was no sound, and now there is sound. Now somebody is speaking. But what is the real happening? The real happening is if the person really knows life and mind, then his words would bring you to an inner silence. So the inner happening is quite the opposite of the outer happening. On the outside, things have changed from silent to not silent. Internally, things have changed from not silent to relatively more silent. That will connect to the second part of your question, because that will tell you how to choose the society one has to live in. Right? Try to be with people who have the capacity to be brought to silence and equally to bring others to silence. One has to live with people, and it's great to live with people who are internally a little less chaotic. Yes.
Pranam Acharya ji. As I understand spirituality, it deals with purification of mind and nothing else. By purification, I mean going beyond this impression making, logical reasoning, rationalizing, approval seeking, habits or function or conditioning of the mind. We are passively living according to the rule of nature with our compulsive desires. Spirituality is the active process of monitoring these compulsive desires. By monitoring, I mean to let functions which are necessary for nature to sustain happen, and curtailing the functions which are unnecessary in the sense of in the sense creates a sense of junk or waste of time. As our time is so much limited and our life is just like a old technology camera with limited reel, which will finish irrespective of the quality and nature of our photos which are clicked. And with this thought process in the background, I would like to proceed with my question. Like when we talk about mind and body doings as two separate entities, are we separating the mind and body, which basically gives the idea that body is the culprit and mind is the victim, and that again becomes duality in singularity? Why is it difficult for us to go ahead and honestly accept that we are the desire and be accountable for the suffering which is caused due to it? And the idea of spirituality is unifying or inclusiveness, and we are doing the dead opposite by creating two inside of us. Are we playing the game right?
What do you want?
There is a lot of confusion which
Even confusion needs to have at least some clarity in order to be cleared. How much of this has to do with your life? What exactly do you want to ask?
like when we are
When I am. Ask, speak about your life. When I am.
we are dividing.
When I am.
I am dividing body and mind as separate things, and
Don't divide. No constitution says that you have to do that. You won't be tried in a court of law for not dividing body and mind. Don't do that.
and we always talk about the
I.
I all. No, basically we have read about the
I.
ego. We have read about
I.
the ego. I have read about the ego. I have heard about the ego. And basically, are we? Am I concluding that there is a such thing called ego? Which
How do I know what you are concluding?
That's why I'm a bit confused. What?
Just a bit.
I'm very much confused. Actually, now I realized I've written so much. Still, there's 3 pages.
Spirituality is not a set of principles. It doesn't command you to divide. It doesn't command you to unify. Do what is in your best interest. It implores you to see what is really going on within your system and structure. What's going on and who is doing it? Who is
Again, it
claiming
creates
the
a duality.
credit? See that, and if you want to say there are two, say there are two. You want to say there are 10, say there are 10. And if you are happy with there being 10 of you inside you, then let the 10 of them exist and fight with each other and tear each other down. No problems. Spirituality is not some holy injunction. It's not a set of sacred commandments. You have to do this. It is in this that spirituality and religion differ. You don't have to do anything.
So what is it?
You just have to find out what's going on. What's really going on. You don't have to set it straight in any particular way. Figure out what is going on. Chances are, in the process of figuring out
when
what
we
is going
figure out
on,
what is going on,
then when I figure
हाँ,
out.
sir. When I figure out what is going on, then I'll have a choice.
Don't assume, figure out.
I'll have a choice of.
You are still assuming. If I figure out what is going on, how do you know what will happen if you figure out? How do you know so much in advance? Don't speculate.
We always stand
I.
between two. I always stand between two choice in every way, either
But
doing
do
it
you
or not
know the
doing
two
it.
choices? To really choose, you must know between A and B. Do you know A and B? To know
But-
A and B, you have to go close to all these choices that exist within. The one who sees choices, generates, and then ultimately picks, puts his finger on one of the things.
Who does that?
Figure out yourself.
How?
How do you watch anything? How do you watch him or me or this fan? How do you do it?
Observing.
Observe it. Observe the fan, not your idea of the fan, right?
So when I am observing, I am creating a divide. I am doing. And
Is there not a
there
divide
is the
already?
observer and the
Wait.
action.
If there is no divide currently and you are peaceful with it, then there is no need to observe. Don't create that divide. You're not really being forced to create anything or do anything. If you feel observing the fan or observing your mind or your own processes creates a divide, then don't observe. If you feel that you are one in some indisputable and unbreakable way, and observation would shatter you or create a schism, then why commit such unholiness? In alleging that a divide would be created, you are in sin. You are saying that you exist in an absolute unity. If that is the case, then continue writing. It's almost like saying that if I look at myself in the mirror, I'm creating a division. Even more spectacularly, if I look at myself in the mirror, then I'm creating a face. You're not creating a face, you're observing it. You're observing it as it really is. But observation threatens the status quo. Because now you cannot avoid looking at things as they are, and they are often quite ugly to look at. So one doesn't want to observe. So one creates fantastic arguments against observation. I'm not again charging it upon you, but that's the usual way of the ego. If I observe, then that goes against that kind of a philosophical principle. If I observe, then that kind of a peace is violated. Then don't observe.
So again, if the ego is doing this, then who is that?
I'm not saying
who
the
is
ego
aware of the ego?
I'm not saying the ego is doing this. You figure out who is doing this.
How is that possible?
How do you watch the fan? By not assuming that you already
Has seen
know
the
the fan. If you assume that you know the fan, then you watch your assumption, not the fan. Right? If you have an idea of the fan, then what you watch is the idea, not the fan. So some basic humility. I do not know, but I probably can know. So let me just observe, let me watch.
But we always,
I.
we always,
I.
I always make a pre-notion, make an impression before seeing
Great,
anything.
continue. If that serves you well, continue with it. Are you all right? Are you glad the way you are? If you are, then is there any need to change the way things are presently arranged or functioning within you?
I'm not able to decide that. Am I
If
glad
you're
the way
not
I
yet
am?
able to decide, then let things run as they are running. The spiritual process cannot begin unless until there is a dissatisfaction against one's state. It is not a thing of mere curiosity. It's not like visiting a museum where you observe something that firstly belongs to others, secondly belongs to the past. Spirituality is about firstly observing not others but yourself, even if in relationship with others, and secondly observing not your idea of yourself but observing yourself as you are right now in real time.
But still the observing is coming out with the conditioning.
First of all, there has to be a dissatisfaction. When there is that dissatisfaction, then there is a forward movement.
Yeah, I feel there is a dissatisfaction.
No, you have to be certain that there is a dissatisfaction. That dissatisfaction must cry out. If you have come to this kind of a discussion with some general curiosity, okay, fine, I have an evening to spare, let me see what's going on, you won't get anything.
How to know that I have come with this?
How do you know that you are in pain?
I feel it.
So you have to feel that pain. And you don't have to force yourself to synthetically feel that pain. That pain must actually be there. And it is there, it's just that
I am numb.
you are living in an anesthetized way. Probably, again, you have to figure out. Yes. We'll meet in the main session, won't we?
Yes.
This session is more for,
Yeah, I just waited if someone else is.
if someone else is there, fine, otherwise we'll continue the next session a bit early.
Okay.
So that has to be made clear beforehand.
Thank you, Acharya, for everything, whatever you sharing your knowledge. I've seen your YouTube videos, and I feel like I have enough understanding. I experience a lot. I understood things, but still there is. Like I'm not settled yet. I feel like still more to go. Even though somehow I want to be, okay, that's it, no more. But there is something which is telling me, no, go more. And, uh, and I can feel it. This is not about knowledge, this is about opening myself, like heart is not open yet, it's blocked, it's not suffocated now, but still looks like, yeah, it's not fully open yet. So yeah, what you suggesting me to do? Should I keep on searching like that?
What are you searching for?
What I'm searching for, if I really look for it, I'm looking for the love with myself.
So
Yeah.
does it exist or not?
It exists, but I'm not satisfied yet, maybe, with that much.
If you're not satisfied with the love you have for yourself, then it is not so much the love that you are lacking. It is the intention, the willingness to pay up for your love. Love is a costly affair.
Okay.
Love requires a lot of payment. In
I'm ready
more
to pay.
classical sense, it is called sacrifice. And if there is readiness to pay, then there is the instance of payment and the delivery is immediate. The moment you pay up, you get what you have paid for. So then there can be no dissatisfaction. The very fact of dissatisfaction, the very feeling of dissatisfaction indicates that the readiness to pay up itself needs to be more. Because that is the only blockage possible. The intention to pay. That payment is also called sacrifice, it is also called surrender, it is also called letting go, it is also called renunciation. Right? It is also called detachment. The intention to pay translates into immediate payment. If the intention is real, then the act of sacrifice is not postponed to the future. It happens immediately. And if it happens immediately, then that which you have paid for is obtained immediately. If it is not coming to you, then there is possibly no reason other than the hesitation or uncertainty in opening up to pay. Why doesn't one want to really open up and make the payment? Because one still does not have enough clarity. One wants to keep the stuff that is required to be dropped or given away. Given away as the payment. One says, fine, I can see that I love myself, and I see that for my own welfare or betterment, I must have that. Right? This is the act of love. This is the only act of love. Right? To strive for a higher state, a betterment, an elevation, a sublimation, right? That's what the action of love is. If you love yourself, you want to be better. If you love the other, you want the other's welfare. Now it depends on whether you value that welfare more than what you are holding on to. You could have that elusive betterment, or you could have that which you already have and are not very willing to give up. A choice has to be made. Love is not very amenable to compromise, you see. It's not a social thing where you can have adjustments of this or that kind. It is some kind of an absolutist tyranny. Love says either this or nothing. That is the reason why most people stay quite lovelessly. Because they want both. They want love and they want other stuff as well. Love is not so adjustable. Talked of blockages. Nothing blocks love except the unwillingness of the lover herself. If you are listening intently, you might be in fact concretely seeing what is it that needs to be just dropped. And I'm not merely talking of intangible ideas, notions. They too are stuff that deserves to be dropped. Often what needs to be dropped is quite tangible. It could be as tangible as money or a house, as material as brick and mortar. फिर आप थम जाओ, पहला पेमेंट तो ये करो कि थम जाओ. जो रात का सत्र होगा वो खालिस देसी में होगा. ठीक है. अभी ये अपने बाहर के भाई लोग हैं, इनके लिए. Yes, please. Yes, 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 yes. I really do not subscribe to the notion that watching somebody's face can deliver you any kind of good. Nor am I an enlightened person whose darshan will liberate you. I'm an ordinary fellow. Talk to me. That might fetch you certain returns. Otherwise, this figure, this face, this body has no worth.
Pranam Acharya. You write here, you are scared of yourself.
Please,
You-
what is it?
You are scared of yourself.
Me.
This quote. You are so powerfully that you are
You're scared of yourself.
You are
okay.
so scared of yourself. What does that mean, actually?
There are 2 or 3 yous in that statement. The questioner is quoting me to me. The quote says, you are so powerful actually that you are scared of yourself. You are so powerful actually that you are scared of yourself. How many yous do you see in that statement? How many instances of you? 3. The first 2 refer to one thing, and the last one refers dimensionally different. Come on, be with me. Yes, the first 2 refer to, of course, yeah, the small self, right? The small self or the ego. And the third one, yourself, refers to? Yeah. No, not surrendered. The third one, you are so powerful actually that you are scared of yourself. In this, the yourself refers to the best that you can be, the great self, the truth. Classically, the Atman. And classically, the first 2 yous will refer to aham, the ego. The third one refers to, you could say, the dissolved ego, the ascended ego, the purified ego. Getting it? So the ego is afraid of its own betterment. That's what that statement says. The ego is so used to its littlenesses, to its familiar excuses of powerlessness and worthlessness, that it just cannot tolerate coming to a point where it's usual anymore. It's almost like telling a fat guy, you can run 100 meters in 10 seconds. And he can. The fellow might be just 22. He has a lot of time. He can shed weight. And he is well built. He has all the basic biological ingredients needed to be athletic. But he has a lot of additional stuff, a lot of flab, and a lot of habit. A lot of habit. So you call him and tell him, you know what? You cannot run too fast. I don't think you can run too fast. And he is happy. He is happy even though what you are telling him is a statement of his limitation. What you are saying to him is a declaration of his limitation and powerlessness and incapability. But he'll be happy with that. Oh yes, yeah, you are quite right. I don't think I can run too fast. But call him and tell him, in 1 year you can be the next Usain Bolt. And he'll be scared. And he'll be scared. Because this 1 year will be the 1 year of paying up. He'll have to shed a lot. He'll have to give up a lot. The ego doesn't want to give up. That's what the scare is all about. Because betterment of the ego is nothing but the reduction of the ego. Who wants to reduce? We all want to accumulate. We all want to be bigger. We don't want to be smaller. In the case of the ego, betterment is not getting bigger. Betterment implies getting smaller. And the ego does not want to get smaller. Who wants to get smaller? Nobody. So therefore the scare. You knew that, right? You knew that already. You knew that. You just want to, for no reason, hear it in my voice. Yes.
Hello. I've just found out about you, sir. Like, I'm very new, but I'm new, I mean, like, in terms of different ways, but I've been, like, trying Vipassana. I've been trying many, many things, Ashram, Shivananda, and all of the things. And they're all talking about a very similar thing from the different concepts. However, for me, I am observing whether whatever is the body consists of as per Vipassana, or observing what is the mind, where the mind comes from, and also through experience, through the life where my desires, I'm like, okay, fine, you want this? Okay, go ahead. You get it, you enjoy for 1 minute, and then the next desire arises. So it's always endless path where I'm already quite tired of that. And yeah, so it's just like practice, technique, whatever is needed to be done just to drop it.
Pick up one scripture and go to its depths. That does not mean committing yourself to it or getting wedded to it. That merely means that there needs to be depth in the inquiry. It's all right and probably great. Just hopping from place to place does not give you too much depth. Explore the depths of one particular way. And if it is found to be not satisfactory, not useful, then you always have the option of switching to something else or just dropping out totally. You'll not be able to be meditative unless you zero in on something.
Why I would say I've been trying, like, for example, with Vipassana or something. I don't want to name whatever is the branding, whatever. But there's missing, so the mind is not inside for me to realize it. I mean, like, there's beautiful sayings, but, like, it's just the sayings, and then I become a parrot who just repeat without having an experience.
How do you know that what those people are saying? The teachers or the videos, I do not know about them, and I don't need to. how do you know that they are just sayings?
Because for me, I have not experienced it, and
But
until I would.
aren't they saying that you need to first try out a few things? Have you tried out what they are recommending?
Well, I would say so, because I mean, like with the meditation for Vipassana is like the last one was for 20
But you
days
said in the beginning.
for one day, and then I'll drop it. No, I would be like quite intense.
So when you said
until
that
the
you are quite a beginner, that was just
I
in
mean,
humility.
beginner with you, because like I just saw like few of the posters. I'm like, oh, why not to try it? So it's not that
Keep
I'm
the
just
facts.
like I don't know.
Keep the facts in front of me. I mean,
So, like,
excessive humility will distort
yeah.
the question.
Because when I tried, like, okay, I was like, okay, fine, let's try 20 days Vipassana, okay, let's do it. And then when I see my mind just get irritated,
All right.
rather than getting into the depth. And when I see there's
If
so
you
much
have
of irritation,
given them
it's not working.
that much of consideration, right, then what prevents you from striking them out altogether?
Until I'll find something that works better, because like someone would be like just talking, and then you have this
But
amazing experience.
that approach won't help much.
So
that's
that's why I
that's the
need-
common
I need
worldly
kind of
approach, that
point
if I
in
do not have something better than this, how do I drop this? It doesn't work out that way in the inner zone. Here you say, that which is better than this will come only when I firstly drop this. I cannot wait for the higher thing to come to me before I drop the relatively lower thing. Here you have to first present your utter readiness and receptivity. You have to say, I will not continue with the false, even if I have to stay in a vacuum, even if I have to stay with no tangible support or prop. And when you totally discount and reject all that which you have seen to be ineffective and not quite absolute, it's then that the higher thing makes itself available to you. So don't just continue with something because you...
But everyone, you know, like every teacher would say like, oh, this is the only way, and that's the only way, and if you feel that it's kind of beneficial for you,
Maybe
stay
the
there.
teacher
And I'm
is
like,
not
okay,
lying.
let's try another 20 days. Let's see what's gonna work. It's not.
See, maybe the teacher is not lying. Maybe what they are saying is true for them. Maybe for them it is, for people it is the only way. Maybe. Give them work for you, then you do not have infinite time. Or have you? So no point expending time limitlessly on something that has exhausted its value.
I mean, I kind of to exhaust my desire until like so this time I pushed myself. I mean, like, you want to do it, you quit your job for trying it, so stay until the end. And when I already feel like, okay, that's too much, then it's much easier for me to drop rather than dropping in the doubt. Maybe I didn't work until the end, kind of thing.
All right.
Sorry.
Try the test of time.
Okay.
What's that? If something has withstood the passage of time, it's quite likely, not absolutely certain, but quite likely, that there is something timeless in it. So you have had the experience with living teachers. You go to them, you speak to them and all that. They teach you a few methods, techniques that they have. Now go to the one who are no longer living. Go to them. Go to the classics. Go to the scriptures. They are time tested.
That's what I find, like when the teacher is present, when the teacher is alive, sorry, the energy is still, well, I wouldn't call it energy, whatever, but the presence of the teacher is there and it's much more direct experience. When the teacher is no longer there, the teaching gets polluted by people around or whatever.
It works both ways. Works both ways. The teacher's words, whether in the form of a book or in the form of a technology-enabled feature like the video or audio, give you more pressure-free and intimate space to be with the teacher. Right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it is quite likely that the teacher might not be so worthy at all. But his physical presence might be enthralling you. And many teachers take great care to be presentable by way of their appearance or their words. Have you not seen many of them coming out in exotic clothing and then creating a great halo around them, a larger than life kind of personality they carry, right? So when you sit in front of such a teacher, it is possible that you get influenced by all the peripheral things that have no value, and you will not even realize that it is the peripheral that is really influencing you. Let's say the teacher is alive and the teacher is present on a grand podium, right? And the ego loves power, does it not? The ego has great respect for power. And you see the teacher climbing up the podium and 100 people are bowing down to the teacher, and on a great screen, certain images are flashing and these things are happening and somebody is throwing rose petals at the teacher, and it's a great spectacle, a great demonstration of power and might. And the audience does get influenced by all that. And the ones who are getting influenced will probably not even realize what exactly is it that is influencing them. They may think that it is the erudition or the scholarliness of the teacher that is influencing them, whereas the fact is that it is the popularity and the power and the might and the personality of the teacher that is influencing them. So the physical presence of the teacher can both be a blessing and a curse. Right? In the physical form, the teacher can be really impressive. But then you take his book and you retire to your quiet corner and you say, shorn of all the ornamentation, what is the crux of his teaching? Keep aside all the ornamentation and all the jazz and all the blitz. What is the crux of the teaching? Now let me see. And the crux of the teaching can be contained in a 40-page booklet. And then you go through that booklet and you find there is not much in it. The booklet is not half as impressive as the teacher. That possibility is there. So even as we really sing paeans to the living teacher, the Jeevat Guru, we have to be careful of the personality phenomena. a lot of the living teachers sometimes actively promote a personality cult around them, which might be good for their own interests, but is not beneficial at all for the ones who are with them. So I said, be with the ones who are no more alive. That may probably reduce a bit of benefit that you would have had from them could you meet them when they were alive, but that would also ensure that now you are insured against getting influenced from their personality. The fellow is long since dead. His personality cannot influence you now, though his legend can. But then, you are in your own tranquil corner. You are with the book or the video, right? And here you can be more collected, more composed. Now see what they are saying. So go to the spiritual classics. Don't be in a hurry to reject what the past has given us. Reject that which is unworthy. Reject all that which is foolish. But then avoid a blanket and absolute rejection of religion per se. And that has become quite fashionable, People say, I'm spiritual but not religious. The moment you say, I'm spiritual but not religious, what happens to all the religious literature then? You just keep it aside. The fact is, that may contain a lot that is extremely useful for you. So, go to the classics. I do not quite know about your inclination towards the spiritual books, but if you can maybe start with Vedanta, maybe the principal Upanishads. Or if you go to the songs of the saints, maybe there you would get insights that may be more beneficial than the physical exercises, breath control, this, that. It's quite possible that merely reading stuff can deliver you better results than trying a lot of other things. And what's more, books are not that expensive.
Yeah,
Teachers are.
Thank you.
All right?